All right, let's do this one last time.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 teaser trailer video. There are at least 20 different symbols that have now been found in all those interstitials. They flashed a bunch of different ones. Everyone spotted some of the most obvious ones last week. But now we've had a chance to dig a little deeper, and there are at least 20 symbols. Some think that there are even more than that. So we're doing a new Spider-Man giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite version of Spider-Man that you spotted during this on the video. So going down the list of 20 from top to bottom, starting with Miles Morales, the reason why it's red spray paint and all the logos, even though they're different colors and styles, are spray painted is because Miles' whole thing is spray painting. He spray painted his new symbol on Ultimate Spider-Man's costume when he also colored it black. He's literally wearing the costume from Peter Parker from his Earth that died at the beginning of the movie because Aunt May gave it to him. The next shiny neon and blue one is for Spider-Man 2099. We saw him during the post-credit scene creating the WebWare wrist devices that allow them to travel the Spider-Verse in the comics. And Gwen Stacy's Spider-Gwen is later seen using one to contact Miles after the events of the movie, so it was implied that she got one from him, and at some point he'd do the same for the other Spider-People, so it was kind of a given that he would appear in some fashion during the sequel movie. The raised yellow and red one is for Spider-Man, the Japanese Spider-Man from the 1970s Toei TV show. The producers Phil Lord and Chris Miller recently confirmed on Twitter that they were going to include him in the sequel too, so he's one of the few ones that they've actually publicly said, oh, we're definitely doing him. He also has a giant mech, so I'm hoping that they include that. It's much bigger than the one that you saw Penny Parker with in the first movie. The next one with a more hardcore black symbol mixed with darker red is for Superior Spider-Man Otto Octavius. He's a version of Dr. Octopus whose body is slowly failing, and as he's getting ready to die, he tricks Spider-Man into allowing him to swap minds and bodies so that his mind is now in Peter Parker's body, and Parker's mind is now in his dying body. The whole premise of the character is that he takes his new lease on life and is determined to be a better Spider-Man than Peter ever was. He turned into a much more tech-laden, hardcore Spider-Man that created Parker Industries, turning the Spider-Man character into something of an Iron Man-esque industrialist. The next very classic-looking logo is for Peter B. Parker, confirming that Jake Johnson's version is coming back, which I had hoped that he would because he was such a fun character. But since he's coming back, it's kind of hard to say how much time will have passed on his Earth and if he'll have already had his daughter, Mayday Parker, with his version of Mary Jane, because the whole idea was that he wanted kids now and they were getting back together. So eventually they'll probably reference that in some way. The next bright red twist on the classic logo is for, you guessed it, Ben Reilly. I know a lot of you had wondered if they'd ever do him at some point, and if they did Spider-Pig in the first movie, and they also talked about incorporating live-action elements like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is just nuts, pretty safe bet that any version of Spider-Man, no matter how weird, is totally on the table. Ben Reilly is just a clone of Peter Parker created by the Jackal in 1975 in a story titled, Even If I Live, I Die, because the whole idea is that Peter Parker was going to have to fight Ben Reilly, his own clone, and they were going to kill off Ben Reilly, at least originally they had planned to, so Peter Parker would have basically been killing himself. They wound up bringing the character back during the Clone Saga in the 90s, and everyone really liked him, so they just keep bringing him back during big Spider-Verse stories. The big blue and red logo is for Penny Parker, confirming that she'll be back. Most, if not all, the original characters from the first movie will be back in some form, but because they're introducing so many other versions, like there are 20 in this teaser, not all the characters will have really big roles like they had in the first film. The next red logo on school paper is for Spider-Ham. John Mulaney said that he had a whole bunch of deleted scenes from the first film, just swearing while he was in character in the booth. I don't think that they put any of that on the DVD because he said it was too not safe for work. The white logo with pink is for Spider-Gwen. Everyone knew she was coming back, so no big surprise. They're also developing a direct spin-off for her character. And even though Marvel is trying to get Haley Steinfeld as their Kate Bishop Hawkeye in the live-action Hawkeye series, she would still totally continue to do all the animated Spider-Verse movies. No big deal going back and forth between Sony and Marvel, and especially now that they have the sharing arrangement with Tom Holland, the relationship between companies is a lot more amicable. And Mahershala Ali played the Prowler in the first Spider-Verse movie, and he's going to be Blade in the live-action Marvel movies going forward. The next yellow on red logo with the moon above it, as you may have guessed, is for Cindy Moon Silk. Her origin story was actually a retcon to the original Peter Parker origin story by Dan Slott. In the 616 comic book universe, Dan Slott wrote that when the original Peter Parker got the spider bite, the spider fell to the ground but also bit classmate Cindy Moon's ankle before it died, giving her the same spider abilities. There was a live-action version of the character that appeared during Spider-Man Homecoming but did not get the spider bite, and I believe that Sony is also trying to develop a live-action Venom spin-off movie with her character. This next one, though, kind of surprised me. The altered logo with the color drained out is actually for the 1967 original Spider-Man cartoon that we saw in the post-credit scene. So not only was the post-credit scene just a funny moment of them recreating the pointing gif, it was also meant to be a teaser for the sequel, which implies that Spider-Man 2099 was actually going to that universe to recruit him for his team. The next wire mesh white logo is for Spider-Punk Hobie Brown. He's the Earth-138 version of Spider-Man, originally operating as Spider-Punk. He's just this homeless teenager who was transformed by a spider and was irradiated as part of President Norman Osborn's toxic waste dumping. He just winds up becoming this punk rock-inspired Spider-Man, leading downtrodden people in New York City on his version of Earth against Norman Osborn's Venom, acronym Venom, troops. I was really surprised to see this one was for Captain Universe Spider-Man. He was kind of a weird character, but I do remember buying this What If comic book when I was a really little kid just because the cover looked so crazy. Captain Universe Spider-Man is part of this really weird, really complicated old story involving the Unipower. He's infused with the Unipower. It's something that actually spins out of the Microverse, which most of you know in the Marvel movies right now is actually what the Quantum Realm is. The reason why they can't call it the Microverse is because Hasbro owns the license on the Microverse and the Micronauts characters. This whole Captain Universe Spider-Man just spun out of a crazy story involving them. I don't know how they're going to handle that in this animated Spider-Verse series if Hasbro still owns the license on that. They'll have to find some other way to explain how he got the Unipower. Then I know a lot of you are excited about this next one. The black and red on yellow logo is none other than the Bombastic Bagman version of Spider-Man, also known as the Amazing Bagman. He's the 616 version of Peter Parker who had given the alien costume to Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four to analyze after the events of Secret Wars so that he could just figure out what was going on with it, but also needed to help someone. Because he was left without a costume temporarily, he had to use one of the Fantastic Four costumes and stick a bag over his head. This one that's red on the altered shade of magenta is just for Spider-Man Noir, who had just discovered color during the original movie, taking the color Rubik's Cube back to his black and white universe at the end, so just confirming that Nicolas Cage is also coming back. This bluish neon on white one actually seems like it's for Ghost Spider, which would be really cool. In his reality, this version of Peter Parker had an Uncle Ben that never died. He became super rich, super successful, but also wound up breaking bad. He winds up bringing a bunch of alternate versions of other spider people from universes to his, absorbing their powers to make himself more powerful until another version of Doctor Strange and the other heroes defeated him. He died, went to hell, and then was infused with the spirit of vengeance as penance for all of his misdeeds. So he's basically a Ghost Rider version of Spider-Man. Then this one actually might be for the 1990s animated series Spider-Man. This one might be Jessica Drew Ultimate Spider-Woman. This one seems like it's Ultimate Spider-Man from the Spider-Man Unlimited animated series in the 90s.
Holy moly! What are you guys?
And then this one seems like Iron Spider from the Marvel comics. So that's the 20 that I could find so far. A lot of people think that there might even be more than that, but I think that's because when some of the logos transition from one spider logo to another, it kind of blends together and makes it seem like it's a different logo. So it's totally possible, but the whole idea is they're doing so many different versions. All these won't have the same amount of screen time, and some will be probably just little Easter eggs that are only on screen for a little while. So let me know in the comments if there are any other logos that you spotted during that teaser that you think are going to be in the new movie, and which brand new one are you most excited about. There'll be more teasers for this next year. They'll confirm more different alternate versions as people start to ask them more questions. So as we get more details, I will do more videos about this. The really big stuff that's coming up in the next couple of days is Rick and Morty Season 4 Episode 1 starts on Sunday, and then Star Wars The Mandalorian starts on Tuesday, but that'll be a Friday show after that first episode. So as long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you'll see all those videos when I post them. Everyone click here to watch the Sony people talk about the Sinister Six Spider-Man movie that they're making, and everyone click here for that brand new Rick and Morty Season 4 Episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.